The forest was a giant, green and dark. Little Leo ran, his small legs pumped hard, twigs snapped under his worn sneakers. He was only 6. He didn't mean to wander so far from the village edge. The bright blue butterfly had lured him. Deeper and deeper into the trees he went. Now the butterfly was gone. The familiar sounds of home were gone too. Only strange rustles and shadows remained. Fear, cold and sharp, pricked at his skin. He called for his mother. His voice was a tiny thread, easily lost in the vast, uncaring wilderness. A low growl rumbled nearby. Leo froze. His heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. He saw yellow eyes, watching him from the undergrowth. Saliva dripped from a dark snout. It was a wolf or something like it, lean and hungry. Leo whimpered. He backed away slowly, step by tiny step. The creature mirrored his movement, inching closer, its muscles tensed, ready to pounce. He was small. He was alone. The sun was starting to dip below the tree line, painting the forest in hues of orange and purple. But for Leo, darkness was already closing in. He stumbled over a root, fell hard. His knees scraped raw against the rough earth. Tears welled hot and fast. He wanted his mother. He wanted his warm bed. Not this cold, damp ground, not these terrifying eyes. The wolf crept forward, its growls more confident now. Leo squeezed his eyes shut. He prayed for a miracle, for a hero, for anyone. The scent of pine needles and damp soil filled his nostrils, mixed with the musky odor of the predator. Time stretched, each second an eternity of fear. He was just a little boy lost in a world of teeth and claws. The forest held its breath, or so it seemed to Leo. The wind whispered secrets through the leaves, secrets of danger, secrets of survival. He could hear the wolf's paws padding softly on the forest floor. Closer, closer. He let out a small, choked sob. He thought of his wooden toy soldier, the one his father had carved. He wished he had that soldier now, for courage. But he was alone, utterly alone. And the shadows were growing longer. The fangs were drawing nearer. His small world had shrunk to this terrifying, immediate threat. News of Leo's disappearance spread like wildfire. It reached the nearby outpost first. A frantic mother, her face streaked with tears. Her words tumbled out. Lost, forest, animals. The duty officer listened. His expression grew grim. This was the Blackwood Forest, a place notorious for its unforgiving nature and its predators. He knew immediate action was critical. Every passing minute lessened the boy's chances. The sun was setting. The forest would soon become a realm of nightmares. He grabbed the radio. His voice, urgent and clear, crackled through the static. A child was lost. A rescue mission was needed. Now. The call reached Anya first. She was cleaning her rifle, methodical, precise. Her past in special forces never truly left her. She heard the officer's report. Her movements stilled. A child, alone, in Blackwood. Her jaw tightened. She knew those woods, knew the dangers that lurked within its depths. This wasn't a mission for the hesitant. It required skill. It required courage. It required people who wouldn't break. She nodded once, a silent acceptance of the unspoken request. She was already picturing the terrain, the likely spots a scared child might seek shelter, the paths the predators might take. Layla was tending her small herb garden. Her hands, usually gentle with plants, clenched. She was a master tracker. The forest was her second home, but she respected its raw power. She knew its signs, its whispers. The thought of a small child lost and terrified within its embrace sent a shiver down her spine. She could almost feel the boy's fear. The forest could be a cruel guardian. She grabbed her pack. Her tracking gear was always ready. Her calm demeanor hid a fierce determination. She would find him. She had to. She knew the language of the earth, broken twigs, faint footprints, the scent of fear on the wind. Zara was in the small village clinic. She was stitching a minor wound for a logger. Her touch was gentle, her voice soothing. When the news arrived, her composure wavered for a moment. A child, her medical training kicked in. Hypothermia, injury, shock. The dangers were immense. She quickly restocked her medical kit. Antivenom, bandages, pain relief. She thought of the child's small body, vulnerable. She was not a fighter, not like Anya. But her courage was different. It was the courage to heal, the courage to hope, even in the face of despair. She would be ready to mend what the forest tried to break. Anya was the unofficial leader of the trio, tall with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly. Years in the military had honed her into a weapon. But beneath the steel there was a protective instinct, especially for the innocent. She moved with a quiet efficiency. Her voice was calm, authoritative. She trusted her skills. She trusted her gear. She knew how to make hard decisions in impossible situations. The Blackwood Forest was an enemy she understood, an enemy she was prepared to face. She checked her sidearm, her knife, her tactical vest. Every piece of equipment was an extension of her will.
Layla, slighter in build than Anya, possessed a different kind of strength. Her connection to the natural world was profound. She grew up learning the secrets of the forest from her grandmother. She could read the land like an open book, a bent blade of grass, a disturbed pebble, a distant bird call. All were clues to her. Her movements were fluid, almost silent, like a shadow herself. She carried a traditional hunting bow, not for sport, but for survival. Her senses were incredibly acute. She could smell rain on the wind, hear the faintest rustle of a hidden creature. She was the key to finding Leo before it was too late.
Zara was the heart of the group. Her empathy was her strength and her burden. She had seen too much pain in her work, but it never hardened her. It fueled her desire to help. Her medical knowledge was extensive, from field dressings to treating exotic bites. She was quick-witted, able to improvise under extreme pressure. She wasn't trained for combat, but her resolve to save a life was as strong as any soldier's. She carried a heavy medical pack, filled with supplies and hope. She knew the psychological toll this would take on the child, and on the rescuers. She was prepared to offer comfort as well as care.
Together they were a formidable team. Anya provided the tactical edge, Layla the path through the wilderness, Zara the healing touch. They had worked together before on smaller missions, rescuing lost hikers, aiding remote villagers, but this was different. A child against the full fury of Blackwood. The stakes were impossibly high. They respected each other's skills, trusted each other's judgment. Their bond was forged in shared purpose and a fierce desire to protect the vulnerable. They stood ready. As the last light faded, the forest waited, and so did they. The military unit arrived quickly. 5 men hardened by training, led by Sergeant Marcus Sarge Cole. He was a veteran, seen too many battles, lost too many comrades. His face was a mask of stern professionalism, but his eyes held a flicker of concern for the lost boy. He greeted Anya with a curt nod. He knew her reputation, respected it. His orders were clear: support the civilian experts, provide security, get the child out. He carried an assault rifle. His movements were economical, purposeful. He expected discipline from his men, and he would get it. The forest was an enemy, and he treated all enemies the same.
Rook, whose real name was Corporal Evan Miles, was the team's sharpshooter. Young, barely out of his teens, but his eyes were steady, his hands even steadier. He clutched his long-range rifle. He was quiet, observant, always scanning the tree line, always looking for threats. He felt the weight of responsibility, a child's life. He hoped his skills wouldn't be needed against human threats, but he was prepared for anything. The forest's dangers were not just animalistic. He knew that. He'd heard stories. He just wanted the boy to be safe. He focused on his breathing, staying calm, ready.
Then there was Tank, Private Ben Carter, built like his namesake. He carried the heaviest gear, extra ammunition, breaching tools, a heavy machine gun if needed. He was a man of few words, but his loyalty to his team was absolute. He would walk through fire for them, or into the darkest part of Blackwood Forest. He was the muscle, the one who cleared obstacles, the one who stood firm when things got rough. He had a younger sister. The thought of her lost and alone fueled his determination. He would carry any burden to bring Leo home. His presence was a silent promise of protection.
Ghost, Corporal John Lee was the scout. He moved with uncanny silence. His specialty was reconnaissance and stealth. He could map terrain in his head, spot traps, detect ambushes. He wore camouflaged clothing, blended into the shadows. He was the eyes and ears of the unit. He would move ahead, mark paths, warn of dangers. He felt a kinship with Layla, the tracker. Both understood the silent language of the wild. He was focused, alert. Every rustle, every snap of a twig registered in his mind. He was a silent guardian, paving the way for the rescue.
Sparks, Specialist Maria Ramirez, was the communications expert. She carried the advanced radio equipment, ensuring the team stayed connected, with each other, and with the outside world. In the dense forest, signals could be weak, unreliable. Her job was crucial. She was also proficient with a standard rifle, ready to defend herself and her comrades. She was quick-thinking, resourceful, able to troubleshoot technical problems under pressure. She knew that information could be as vital as ammunition. She constantly monitored the frequencies, her ears tuned for any signal, any sign that could lead them to the boy, or warn them of impending trouble.
Section 5. Plunge into the Emerald Maze. The assembled team stepped into the Blackwood Forest. Twilight painted the canopy in shades of deep purple and grey. The air grew heavy, damp, thick with the scent of decaying leaves and unknown blossoms. Towering trees formed a dense roof, blocking out the last vestiges of daylight. Sounds of the day creatures faded, replaced by the emerging chorus of the night. Hoots, chirps, and distant unsettling rustles. The forest floor was a tangle of roots and thorny vines. Every step required caution, even for seasoned woodsmen like Layla and Ghost. It was a labyrinth designed to confuse and consume. Anya took the lead, her rifle held ready. Her eyes scanned every shadow, every dark recess between the trees. Sarge and his soldiers fanned out, forming a protective perimeter. Rook constantly surveyed higher ground, or what passed for it in the dense undergrowth. Tank moved with surprising quietness for his size, clearing small obstacles. Ghost melted into the gloom ahead, a silent scout. Layla walked beside Anya, her gaze fixed on the ground, searching for the faintest sign, a broken twig, a scuff mark, anything to indicate Leo's path. Zara stayed near the center of the formation, her medical pack secure, her senses on high alert. The silence of the deep woods was unnerving. It was not an empty silence, but one filled with unseen watchers. The team communicated in low whispers, hand signals. They knew sound traveled and could attract unwanted attention. The darkness was almost absolute now. Flashlight beams cut sharp tunnels through the black, dancing on the gnarled trunks of ancient trees, creating eerie, shifting shadows. The temperature dropped, a chill seeped into their bones. Not just from the night air, but from the palpable sense of menace that seemed to emanate from the forest itself. This place did not welcome them. Layla suddenly stopped. She knelt, touched the damp earth.
Here, small footprints. He was running.
A collective sigh of relief and renewed urgency. They had a trail, faint, but it was something.
How long ago? An hour? Maybe 2. He's scared, moving erratically.
The team pressed on, deeper into the emerald maze. The path was faint, hard to follow even for Layla's expert eyes. The forest seemed to actively resist them, its tangled undergrowth like grasping hands, its shadows like cloaks for unseen dangers. But they would not be deterred. A child was waiting. The forest grew denser, the air colder, and strange sounds echoed all around them. Suddenly, a low growl erupted from the thicket to their right, too close for comfort. Soldiers snapped their rifles up, flashlight beams converging on the sound. 2 pairs of yellow eyes gleamed back at them, wolves, larger than average, emboldened by hunger and the darkness. They were stalking the team. Or perhaps they had been tracking Leo. The thought sent a fresh wave of urgency through them. The wolves were lean, their ribs showing faintly, desperate and dangerous. One snarled, bearing long yellow fangs.
Layla, Zara, stay central. Soldiers, hold your fire unless necessary. Don't want to attract more. Narrator. The wolves circled, testing their defenses. One lunged, not at a person, but at a pack, trying to create chaos. Tank shoved it back with the butt of his weapon. A heavy thud followed, and the wolf yelped, recoiling, but its partner darted in from another angle. Fast, a blur of fur and teeth. It was a coordinated attack. These were not ordinary wolves. They were cunning, desperate, and knew how to hunt in these woods. The rescuers were intruders in their domain, and they were not welcome.
Layla nocked an arrow, her movement swift and sure. She aimed, not to kill, but to deter. The arrow hissed through the air, striking the ground inches from the second wolf's paw. It yelped, jumping back, confused by the silent projectile. The first wolf, recovering, prepared for another charge, its eyes locked on Zara. The medic, less armed, seemed like an easier target. Sarge raised his rifle, his voice as menacing as the wolf's. The tension was a physical thing, thick and suffocating. The smell of wet fur and aggression filled the air. Suddenly, Rook, perched slightly higher on a fallen log, let out a sharp whistle, a high-pitched sound that cut through the growls. The wolves flinched, their ears flattened. He whistled again, longer, more piercing. The wolves hesitated, looked at each other, then, as if a silent command had been given, they turned and melted back into the undergrowth, gone as quickly as they appeared.
Old shepherd's trick. Sometimes works on canines.
The immediate danger passed, but the encounter left them rattled. The forest was truly wild and its inhabitants were hungry. But as they tried to skirt the camp, a twig snapped under Tank's heavy boot. A sharp challenge rang out from the camp. S1. Media group, soldiers sneaking around camp, soldiers avoiding camp in forest at stocker to distribute _equally. We go around, avoid contact if possible. Leo is the priority. Narrator, media group. Soldiers moving quietly in forest, soldiers alert in forest at stock at distribute _equally. They pressed on, the wolf encounter heightening their alertness. Ghost, scouting ahead, suddenly signaled. Danger. Human, not animal. Anya motioned for silence and the team crept forward. Through the dense foliage they saw it, a flickering campfire, figures moving around it, rough voices, carrying weapons, not soldiers, not villagers, poachers, or worse.
Who's there? Show yourselves!
Figures rose, guns pointed in their direction. There was no avoiding it now. A shot rang out, bark exploded from a tree near Anya's head. The soldiers returned fire. Muzzle flashes lit up the dark woods. The peaceful night erupted into chaos. Bullets ripped through the leaves, whined past their ears. The acrid smell of gunpowder filled the air. S1, media group, soldier ducking in forest, soldiers taking cover in forest at stock at distribute _equally. Down! The soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, but they were outnumbered and the poachers knew the terrain. It was a deadly dance in the dark. S1, media group, soldier shooting in forest at night, soldiers in firefight in forest at stock at distribute _equally. Rook, suppress their left flank. Ghost, see if you can circle behind them. Tank, lay down covering fire.
Sparks, try to get a signal out. Report hostile contact. Signal's weak, Sarge. Too much interference.
This was bad. They were on their own. Anya knew they couldn't sustain a long firefight. They needed to break contact and find the child. The gunfire was a terrifying symphony, echoing through the forest, surely terrifying Leo even more if he was nearby.
We need to move. Now, Layla, can you find a path out of this? Through that ravine. It's tight, but it should give us cover. Tank, heavy fire on their center. Rook, cover our retreat. Everyone else, with me.
Tank unleashed a torrent of bullets from his machine gun. The poachers ducked for cover, giving the team the opening they needed. They scrambled towards the ravine, one by one. Ghost was already there, guiding them. The narrow passage was slick with moss, treacherous in the dark, but it shielded them from the worst of the gunfire. Once through the ravine, they didn't stop. They ran further into the woods, away from the poachers, adrenaline pumped through their veins. Zara checked for injuries. Miraculously only scrapes and bruises. But the encounter had cost them precious time and energy, and Leo was still out there, alone, possibly terrified by the sounds of the battle. Layla, despite the chaos, tried to pick up the boy's trail again. It was harder now. The ground was disturbed, her focus shattered, but she closed her eyes for a moment, centered herself, then opened them, and began her search anew. Hope was a fragile thing, but it persisted. Suddenly, a faint sound, a whimper carried on the night breeze. Everyone froze.
Did you hear that?
They listened, tense, silent. There it was again, a child's cry, weak but unmistakable. Layla pointed towards a dense cluster of thorny bushes. Hope surged. They moved quickly now, but cautiously. Anya pushed aside the thorns, and there he was, Leo curled into a small ball hidden beneath the bushes, his face pale, streaked with dirt and tears. He was shivering but alive. He looked up, his eyes wide with fear, seeing so many armed figures.
Leo, it's okay. We're here to help you.
She offered him her hand. He hesitated, then slowly he reached out. His small, cold fingers grasped hers. Anya and the soldiers secured the small clearing, on guard for any remaining threats, animal or human. Sarge let out a long breath. A rare smile touched his lips. They had found him. Against all odds. Against the wolves, against the gunmen, against the forest itself. The relief was immense, almost overwhelming. But the mission wasn't over yet. They had to get him home safely. Zara quickly examined Leo. He was cold, scared, dehydrated, with minor scratches, but no serious injuries. She wrapped him in a thermal blanket from her pack, gave him some water, and spoke to him in soothing tones, reassuring him. He clung to her, his small body trembling. The fear was slowly receding, replaced by exhaustion and a dawning sense of safety. The sight of his small, trusting face was a powerful reward for the weary rescuers. Each one of them felt the weight of the night begin to lift, just a little. The shared danger had forged a bond, not just among the team, but with the little boy they had risked so much for. The journey back was tense, but different. They had a precious cargo now. They moved with renewed purpose. Ghost and Layla took point, clearing the path, ensuring it was safe. Tank often carried Leo when Zara needed to navigate rougher terrain. The boy, wrapped warmly, mostly slept, exhausted from his ordeal. The soldiers maintained a vigilant perimeter. The poachers were still out there, and the wolves. But the forest seemed less menacing now. Or perhaps it was their own relief that painted it in a softer light. They were a protective shield around the sleeping child. Their steps were lighter despite their fatigue. As the first rays of dawn touched the sky, they emerged from the Blackwood forest. The village was ahead, smoke rising from chimneys, a welcome sight. A small crowd had gathered, anxious faces. Leo's mother stood at the front, her eyes red-rimmed from weeping, searching. When she saw them, when she saw Zara carrying her son, a cry escaped her lips. A sound of pure, unadulterated joy and relief. She ran towards them, stumbled, fell to her knees. Zara gently handed Leo to her. The mother clutched him, kissing his face, tears streaming down her cheeks, whispering his name over and over. The villagers surrounded them, words of gratitude poured out for Anya, Layla, Zara, for Sarge and his men. The soldiers, usually stoic, allowed themselves small smiles. Anya watched the reunion. A quiet satisfaction settled within her. This was why she did it, this moment, of a life saved, of a family reunited. The forest still loomed behind them, dark and mysterious, but today they had conquered a small part of its wildness. They had faced its dangers, and they had won. As the sun climbed higher, painting the world in warm colors, it felt like a new beginning. For Leo and for the weary warriors who had brought him home.